Welcome to Therapist Spotlight.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anta's Therapist Spotlight, the show where we aim to showcase our wonderful therapists to the wider community. I'm your host, Joshua Brooks, and tonight we're here with Jabe Brown. He owns Functional Health Melbourne. Is that right?
Melbourne Functional Medicine.
Melbourne Functional Medicine. He's a naturopath and a functional medicine practitioner. Jabe, how you going?
Good, mate. Thanks so much for having me on, Josh. Love the idea, mate. I reckon it's a great one.
Awesome. So, first question. What got you involved in natural therapies?
Mine's a bit of a funny story, as I suppose everyone's is. I was once of the mindset that, I'm having my vegetables, potato chips. It's chips from potato. That's vegetables, right? And I kind of went through a big first world crisis, right? First time I'd been broken up with in my life, and oh my God, woe is me, And so I went, for me, it was, I kind of spiraled down into what for me was a dark place. But that's the point where I hit bottom and started to bounce. And I was the guy with like affirmations stuck up on the wall and like Tony Robbins books and diet books and stuff everywhere. And as a part of that, I kind of got into nutrition and then more health, exercise and the whole lot. And it kind of got to the point where my mates would just about pay me to shut up and stop trying to solve their problems. And then it clicked. Wait on, I could actually do this and do this. And so I went off and started studying naturopathy, and no regrets, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. Well, there's one question I tend to ask every naturopath. And so are you more of a herbal naturopath or are you more of a diet naturopath?
No, lifestyle diet, nutrition more than herbs, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I normally ask what's your favorite herb, but if that's not sort of going to work, so what's your favorite sort of mineral or supplement that you're kind of giving?
I don't think anyone can even say anything other than magnesium here.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone gets magnesium. It's just a matter of which form is suited for you. But the things that I'd prescribe more than anything else would be magnesium and an adaptogenic complex. I mean, when I say herbs aren't my thing, I don't do liquid herbs because they've got business problems, they've got compliance problems, and these days manufacturing is great. You can put it in a pill. But I love doing adaptogens.
Yeah, right. So what's your favorite adaptogen then?
I use a complex. I mean, probably with mania, if I had to choose one only, just because it kind of does a lot. But I like to chuck them all together. And so the product I actually use the most is Adreno Enhance by Orthoplex. Yeah, love that product.
Yeah, nice.
I should probably buy shares in their company, the amount that I go through. So.
And so how did that hitting rock bottom, how did that really shape your practice? So you're saying your Tony Robbins affirmations. Where did that come into going into naturopathy and maybe not so much business coaching or mentoring or something like that? Yeah. So why the naturopathy? Yeah.
Yeah. So the Tony Robbins thing was, that's neither here nor there. It was,
okay.
It's a whole bunch of growth stuff, right?
Yep.
In fact, the first diet book I ever read was Fit for Life by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond, I think. Basically, don't eat fruit and meat together, like don't do food combining.
Yeah, for sure.
Way, right? Which now I don't know how I feel about it. But it sparked I like helping people. Yeah, and so health is a way that everyone shares health. It's something everyone does, and I like helping. I like teaching. And then the third thing is that prior to this, I'd been doing business stuff. So my first degree was commerce. And so my brain ticks in terms of business stuff. And then so for me, the idea of being able to help people and educate them. So health, education, and then business. And that's my Venn. Yep. And I just sit right there. And so now I get to play in all of those areas all of the time. And it's a good fit.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, they all go together, don't they? Financial, everything that you're doing with your business. If you're stressed and if you're doing a job that you hate, it's not really going to be that conducive to your health, is it?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, and Josh, one of the things that I think is the great tragedy of our industry is that no one's queuing up to give you a job when you come out having graduated. It's like, I remember a stat, and a creative license with it, but I think the essence of it is about right. that 95% of those who graduate with naturopathy don't end up practicing as their sole or primary source of income. And the tragedy there is that we've spent 4 years doing this thing. And imagine that if you graduated as an accountant, but the odds are that you weren't going to do that. And the problem is that it's a gap in the business skill set. It's a gap in understanding how to transfer your knowledge to other people. And I think that there's a whole lot of practitioners out there who've got really great passion and skills. And how does anyone find you if they don't? How can you help someone if they can't find you? And that's the hard part, is figuring out how to get in front of people and do that. And so that's, for me, actually, I'm sort of transitioning towards that being my main passion area, is how do we, I can help one person, great. I can help my 20 a week or 40 a week or whatever it is. But if we can figure out how to get practitioners, how to get in front of people, that's the area I kind of am a bit interested in at the moment.
Yeah, right. And so what's that looking like to you?
Well, it's not quite yet. At the moment, I'm working on proof of concept. And so it's about building out my own business and bringing on more practitioners until we've got a replicable model. Then once we do that, then we can educate other people on how to do it. Like you don't, get your degree and then rent out your clinic and then open up the doors and people are suddenly flowing on in. And it's not that you have to have the right brain for it. It's just you need to follow the right formula. You need to be doing the right things at the right time. And that's all stuff that you can learn. It's just a place that teaches you about health is probably not the place that's going to teach you about how to do business.
Yeah, for sure.
I like to think that as a practitioner, unless you are on salary, which is pretty rare in our thing, I think that you're a business person who happens to be a health practitioner. And most of us are thinking about it the other way. I'm a health practitioner and I'll tolerate that I have to do business. You can't tolerate that you have to do business and succeed in business.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think there's a big gap there. Yeah.
So let's talk about your business then, because when you go onto your website, you can actually see you've got quite a range of staff, which looks really good. And so what's your clinic like? What are you trying to build? What's your aims? Yeah.
Okay. So at Melbourne Functional Medicine, we basically believe that healthcare can be done better. And that's not, a big surprise to a lot of people, and certainly not in our industry. And there's a lot of problems on it. And so we're constantly trying to figure out how can we improve the experience for the patient? How can we improve the experience for our staff and practitioners? And so one of the things that I realized early on was that my patients' abilities to get results was not always contingent on my ability to give them the right information. I can tell them, do this and do that. And then if they don't follow through with it, then we're not going to get anywhere. Yeah. And so what I found was the patients that I spent the most time with got the best results. And so, but it was not feasible for me as a practitioner to constantly be following them up and finding things out. But it turns out there's this really great job out there that is designed to do exactly that. And it's called health coaching. And so I thought, great, I'll bring on a health coach. And so I brought on a health coach, and then we teamed up and said I'd deliver the practitioner stuff. She would hold the patient's hand through the journey. And then from then we've just kind of kept on growing. So more health coaches, another practitioner, support staff, and then the marketing machine. And it's just kind of this whole thing that's just kind of growing. But at its essence, I think it's someone who can help a patient understand what is going on for them and why, and educate them as to what's going on, not just do this, don't do that, take this, don't take that. But play the detective and then play the educator, and then bring in the health coach who holds their hand and walks with them while they go through the change process. And then over time, our model's evolved. And so the evolution of it, in its current state, we work as a 6-month program with patients so that they pay one fee up front, and then they get as much time with me as a practitioner as is useful for their case, and as much time with their health coach as is helpful for them to implement. And so what that means is the patient doesn't need to be making sure that I want to minimize my visits to Jabe because I don't want to pay again and again. They've already done that. So now they can see me every week if they want to, every 2 weeks if that's what it is. And so we take away all of the other stuff, all the money stuff, and get it all out of the way to begin with. And then we've got time with them. It's like, we don't have to work through your problem and get all of the answers now. We've got 6 months. We've got to end up getting there. And so they can relax into it. And we build a relationship and a rapport. We educate them. And our aim is, by the time we get to the end of that 6 months, that they don't need us anymore, because they've figured out how to learn about themselves and their body so that they don't need someone to tell them what to do. And so the rest of it's just the mechanics on how we can deliver that to more people more effectively, and as a better service. And that's one of the things that we're constantly driven by, is how can we innovate? How can we make this the best experience for people that we possibly can? And that's the other part that I'm a bit passionate about at the moment. It's about how to optimize the business machine and the patient experience.
Yeah, well, I guess that's from your business background. Like, every business coach I've ever listened to always talks about keeping yourself accountable, right? How are you going to keep yourself accountable? What are you going to do next? And that's one of the beautiful things I think about the health coach, isn't it? Because then the health coach can be like, what are you doing? Are you keeping a food diary? Are you looking at it like every weekly? What have you done through the week? What's your exercise routine being like? What's the diet being like? Have you fallen off the wagon? That's all right. How can we replace it? What's this going on? What's this going on? It's like, yeah, you really can keep your clients accountable and see what they're doing. And it's, yeah, we must improve your outcome by a heap.
Yeah, like, absolutely. I mean, I really think that the results are a function of time spent. And we have the ability to spend a lot of time with them as a business. And so what happens is, the more time they spend with me, the more I'm thinking about their case and their health, the more they're thinking about it. The more time they spend with their health coach, the more they're both thinking about it. Then the health coach and I are talking about it. So it means that I've got a collaborator on the case, and it just means that we're more attentive. They're thinking more about their health, rather than they go and see me and then 4 weeks later they come back and present, and it turns out that magnesium was given them the squirts, and and they didn't like the taste of the fish oil, and so they didn't have it. And I'm like, well, we've figured that out in half a week.
That's right.
And have been instantly responsive. So that's what we're trying to do for them.
Yeah, nice. And so I guess, when you're looking at this kind of stuff as well, you want them to be able to take control of their own health, but supplements and nutritional deficiencies and all that sort of stuff come into play, I guess, before they can get into it. And, I'm a big believer in diet, and I'm a big believer that diet can solve a lot of different things, but sometimes those supplements and those nutritional things can get you there faster than a diet can. So with that health coaching, you've almost got that instant feedback. So do you prescribe a lot of different functional tests and nutritional tests, and how does that sort of work with the consultation process in your clinic? Yeah.
So my job is not wizard. By the time someone's arrived in our offices, they've seen the gastroenterologist and the GP and the specialist and whatever they've done, and it didn't work. They're wanting something different, and that's why they arrive at us. And so the magic fix, they're not after that anymore. And so my job is more of detective. And the way a detective works is they take time to gather all of the information and start mapping the threads between them to really sort of bring it together so it clicks and makes sense. And so the next job of mine is educator. And so it's to help them understand what it is that's going on. And because that's what's going on, here are the ways that we can move forward. But we also have to figure out a way to fill in those information gaps. And essentially there are two ways to do that. There's functional pathology testing, and there's subjective testing experimentation. We have a hypothesis, we devise an experiment, test it, refine a hypothesis. And so I tell the patients all of this stuff. They figure out, that sounds like a lot of money. Is there a different way that we can do that? Because some of the testing is pretty spendy. Or they just go, you know what, just sort my health out and let's do all the testing. So our first consultation is 4 hours. Because it takes me that long to understand them. I don't think the right way to do health is by treating a condition or a symptom. I think the right way to do it is by treating a patient, and that takes time. And so essentially it's detective work. Then what we'll do is we'll figure out our plan. It's like, okay, well, your bowels aren't moving. What happens if we stick you on some magnesium? It's our friend there, and change the basics. We'll get some water. And in the meantime, we'll probably take you off gluten, and let's do an organic acids test and a food inflammation test. And so we do all of that. Health coach then helps them implement. Okay, how do you do an organic acid? I have to stop eating cherries for 3 days beforehand? Weird. Okay. And helps them navigate their way through the mechanics of it. And here's how to go gluten-free. And here's some resources on how to do that. And then patients in the supermarket, is the soy sauce gluten-free? Is there another one? Yeah. Just try finding this brand. All that kind of stuff, right? That information the patient has in terms of their experience with magnesium is fed back to me by the health coach. And I say, oh yeah, just dose down on magnesium if the bowels are a bit too loose. Or they haven't done very well since they've been on the adrenal enhanced. Okay, stop it for a bit and we'll see how we go. And so we get that very rapid feedback. Then we'll, when there's enough information from our experiments and testing, that'll come back to me. I'll sit down with the patient again and say, okay, here's what we found. Based on what we've found, here's where I think we should spend our effort and attention next and navigate our way through it. And so it's just very much collaborative care over time, but it's come down to detective work. And I find a way that you can play detective is by playing around with nutrients and herbs. So yeah, sure, test for vitamin D, test for B12. How am I going to figure out if the patient's got problems with selenium? It's harder, right? And so you can say, oh, I think your thyroid looks like you're having troubles converting from T3 to T4. It could be a selenium thing. What happens when we give you selenium? Do you feel any better? And so you can use supplements as a way of experimenting and learning with a patient, and that can help inform, future direction.
And it's such an important thing then with the health coach and with them already paying for 6 months. Then like you said, they're not staying away for 4 weeks. You can say a week later, they're like, I feel so bad. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll just dial that back a little bit. We'll get you. Yeah. So you can constantly have that feedback. Like that must be a game changer with that.
Dude, you can move through things so much quicker. It really is quite incredible.
Yeah. So with the practitioners that you're looking at building in your team, what type of practitioners are you looking for in your clinic? Where's your sort of your direction that you're looking at that you'd want to build for that team? Are you looking for body workers? Are you just naturopaths? Are you good to free farm those out? Like, looking for chiropractors, osteopaths? Yeah. What's sort of your vision? Where are you looking?
So our niche is, so we do functional medicine and we are a premium service. And so the cases that we get are by and large complex. They're often high stakes cases. And so our practitioners need to understand the rules for conditions and for physiology, and then understand where they can be broken. And so what I mean by that is if someone comes in with a diagnosis of an autoimmune condition, but it isn't quite right, we need people who can think through deeply enough to say, okay, it's not a classic case of this. And in that case, you apply this formula. This is going on physiologically, that's going on, this is going on. I wonder if this mechanism might be in play. And so to be able to think through the biochemistry quite deeply so that we can solve things that don't have a name, that don't have a diagnosis. And so the practitioners that work best with us are those that have done some functional medicine training, which I think is a good thing, and I encourage you all to go out and learn a little bit about functional medicine, but also have a good deal of experience, so at least 5 years, and then have got that real problem-solving brain where there's no answer to this, there's no formula for how to deal with it. You've got to figure it out, and they're the best ones. And so what practically that means is naturopaths are those that I've found to be best. Naturopaths or doctors, because they're generalists, right? You have to understand all of physiology and all of pathology in order to be able to think through a case. And if you're restricted because you can't use X herb or X treatment, or you never learnt such and such, it makes it very hard to look after someone in completion. But I don't want to close myself off to the possibility of something else there. And we recently had a nurse practitioner apply, and she was great. There was just a little bit of an experience gap with functional medicine stuff. So I think nurse practitioners could be a sleeper for us.
Well, with that being mentioned, where do you recommend people get functional medicine training? Do you guys put on seminars yourselves, or what sort of brand of functional medicine do you think would be good? If the industry's lacking? Yeah.
Yeah, so functional medicine is more of a methodology than a modality,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so there's nothing official that does it versus everything else doesn't. So it's
Yeah.
really about the knowledge and the learning. And so
Mm-hmm.
someone who has a learning mindset. So if you're spending all your time listening to health podcasts because they fascinate you, well, that's probably a pretty good indicator. And then if you want to get education more formally, the place that I went through that I would recommend is the Institute for Functional Medicine. It's in the US.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also Functional Medicine University, the School of Applied Functional Medicine. You can do, in Australia, you can do ACNEMS, the Australian College of Nutritional and Environmental Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Arla Wren runs a course called Vitae Mosaic. And at the moment, no, we're not doing anything. I reckon that's probably 2-3 years away at this point. We're going to evolve the process a little bit more, expand our economies of scale, and then I reckon
yeah, definitely. And so for any practitioners listening out there, what you're saying is it is much more of that mindset, how to think, how to look at. And again, it's not just because, I mean, one of the biggest problems that we always hear, and I always hear, is that I went to the naturopath and they gave me $500 worth of supplements, and what am I supposed to do with this now? And blah, blah. And it's like, I mean, it's just such a sad way that's kind of how a lot of people view these sorts of things, because, I mean, I believe personally it's got such an important part to play in our public health. Like you said, getting people to take control of their health is such an important gift to give to them.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's I think that's one of the, I've used tragedy again, but I'm going to use it again. It's one of the biggest tragedies of the modern world with health, is that somehow control of our health has been outsourced. It's like it's the doctor's responsibility to fix your health by and large, and it's through magic, this skill, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I think it's kind of ridiculous. And some of the stuff that I tell people, I think is it's sad that we just don't know that and we aren't taught that. I think if you went back generations and generations ago, people would have known a lot of the advice that we give to patients. They would have known that water is probably important for your health, and that exercise is probably a good thing, and that stress really does impact on how you feel. And, these foods make me feel poor. And we're so disconnected from our own bodies that we don't attend to any of it until we break. And then we go to someone who does magic and we expect them to fix this. And I just think that's a problem. And what I'd like to do is, me and all the rest of the practitioners out there would like for people to be able to be in charge of their health and learn. I think you just have to do that through education. It's just sad that it has to come through someone like me, and it hasn't just been passed down and prioritized throughout their whole life.
So within your clinic then, do you also do meal guides, recipes, what to eat, how to eat, that sorts of stuff? Or is that...
So our health coaches will basically help the patient implement and do whatever it is that helps them.
Yeah.
And so we do provide recipes for them. We occasionally do meal planning. We try not to do too much of that because they end up having so many individual taste preferences, and it never really works. So we tend to try and provide them with the resources that they want and talk them through them rather than give them a set guide. But we have done those, but we'll basically give them whatever tools it is that helps them follow through.
Yeah. So when you're talking about that sort of stuff, talking to them about what's a protein source, what's a carbohydrate source, what's an inflammatory food, what's a pro like omega-3s, how to eat more omega-3s rather than omega-6s, just that sort of basic guidelines. So then when they're doing it, they can make their own decisions. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. So I want to give patient high level stuff, right?
Yeah.
What I don't want to say is you need to eat chicken with rice and 3 vegetables. And that's the magic formula to health. What I want to have the conversation that says, having an adequate amount of protein is important to your health. We really should focus on some good fats, and here's foods with good fats. Here's foods with good protein. Have a ton of vegetables. Vegetables are great. Nothing wrong with carbohydrates. Just don't make them 3/4 of your meal. They're to bring up the calorie count. And then help them work through what that means, so that instead of them coming back to me and saying, for the rest of their life, is this meal okay?
Yes.
I understand what this kind of what's going on with this food thing, and they don't need us to tell them anymore. Just give them the education. Like at one point in time, I thought potato chips were were vegetables. And it was part jokingly, but also kind of serious, right?
Well, pizza's a vegetable, isn't it, from the US?
Yeah, it's got. Yeah, absolutely. I found out the other day the reason they put pickles on McDonald's burgers is because unless they do that, it doesn't. If it doesn't have vegetables, it's classified as a different type of food.
Oh, right, yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it was confectionery, but ridiculous. Yeah,
it's ridiculous, isn't it?
But at one time, I didn't know these things.
No, definitely.
So clearly, I can be taught them. So why can't my patients?
For sure.
And that's I do that. The health coach does that, and
Well, something else that I've been aware that you do is a podcast as well. And so is that a weekly or is that a fortnightly? Where can I find that as well? And what do you guys talk about on that podcast? And
so I haven't done that in some time now.
Oh, okay.
We did have a weekly podcast, Vitality Hackers, vitalityhackers.com, but it's probably been 3 or 4 years since I did that. But
really? Oh, right.
It's been a while. But I've got to say, the number of patients, new patients who come in and say, oh, yeah, I've listened to your podcast. I have no idea where they're finding it, but it turns out people listen to podcasts, and that as they get comfortable with you and your voice, they become convinced they want to see you. And so that podcast was a really good, I suppose, I wasn't thinking about it as a marketing effort, but in retrospect, it kind of was.
Yeah, nice. And again, I guess it's good if you want to push your clients to somewhere where they can re-listen to something, or they can re-watch it, or they can just, so they're not calling you every second. It's like, okay, here's a really good podcast for you to watch. Listen to it 30 or 40 times until you get it into your head, and you can just slowly digest it, slowly work through it, and slowly understand what we're talking about, what it's talking about, and then they can get a whole bunch of different ideas on the same topic.
Yes. That's one of the things that we're becoming more and more aware of as we're growing, is the need to be efficient with information delivery. So I find myself having the same conversation with every patient. Then why do we not have a resource? And so we create a resource, create a video, or create a document, and bang, fire it away at them. You still got to have the conversation with them in person. Like, no one wants to just sort of rock up and just be delivered a whole bunch of things that they've got to watch. But podcasts serve as a catalog of, a bank of stuff in your resources. Yeah. And so they're really useful for that, along with your PDFs and videos and all the rest of it. So,
yeah, wonderful. Well, this has been awesome, Jabe. So where can people find you? And like I said, are you taking applications at the moment? Are you looking for practitioners? So
it's actually fortuitous timing on this. So we are actually looking to take on a new practitioner now. And I just had an application, I think about 20 minutes before I jumped on this with you. And I feel like she's a yes. I feel like this is going to be great. But the way that things are going is we're going to need another practitioner in 6 months. And so we're growing. So if you're a health coach, or if you're a practitioner and you've done some functional medicine education, you've got some training, we'd love to speak with you. And you can find us at melbournefunctionalmedicine.com.au. Or just Google functional medicine in Australia, you'll find us. And there's a careers page there. So you just add careers onto the end of the URL. We'd love to take your application.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jabe, for coming on, spending your time with us, sharing your knowledge and your insights. And if anyone's out there that really is looking for a great clinic to work out, that it seems like they go a little bit deeper than maybe other places do, definitely with the ethos of going deeper, please check them out and look them up and send them an email and see what they've got.
Oh, very much appreciated, Josh. And thank you so much for having me on and for doing this. I really do think that this is such an amazing gap to fill, right? So as practitioners, one of my great regrets, Josh, is that when I was in university, I didn't understand the power of network enough, and I didn't nurture the relationships with who would be my colleagues now. And so I think the value of a product like what you're producing here is to bring our community together, and I think that can only be a good thing. So thank you for doing this.
No worries. Well, No worries, guys. Again, if anyone looks like functional medicine and down in Melbourne is the place for you, please go out, check them out, and we'll get into it. Other than that, have a great night, and we'll catch you all later. See ya.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Therapist Spotlight. If you would like to know more about ANTA, visit us at www.anta.com.au.